Picture this. It's 2 a.m. 2 strangers break into your house and you don't do a thing. Or rather, you choose not to. You actually have the chance to stop them, and instead, you just watch, letting them take whatever they want, even your watch, as long as they leave. Because of this, your own family starts seeing you as a coward, as weak. It's probably the worst position a man can find himself in, but he didn't avoid the fight because he was scared. He's a retired hitman, professional enough to recognize in the dark that the gun pointed at him isn't even loaded. He simply didn't want to go back to who he used to be, not until his patience finally ran out. 5 years after this movie came out, and even after a sequel came and went, people are still talking about Nobody. So why did audiences love it so much? Not because the fight choreography rewrote the rulebook. It's because viewers loved watching the secret hero and someone they recognized as one of their own finally explode and make the bad guys answer for what they did. Maybe in some way, this movie pulled out feelings people had been holding down for a long time. The man's name is Hutch Mansell, played by Bob Odenkirk, and on paper, his life is about as ordinary as it gets. He misses the garbage truck every week. His teenage son can barely look at him. His marriage has settled into that warm, distant peace shared by two people who've stopped expecting much from each other. He used to be someone else entirely, a government-trained killer with a very particular set of skills the script never bothers explaining in detail, because that's not really the point. One day, out of nowhere, he simply decided to quit and start a family instead. What matters is that he buried that old version of himself to become a husband, a father, the guy who gets walked over at the office and still says thank you on his way out. That night, when two men broke into his house and he chose not to fight back, it should have felt like relief. Instead, it turned into something else completely, and the monster inside him finally surfaced. What actually breaks him isn't the stolen cash or the watch. It's something smaller. His daughter's cat-shaped keychain goes missing, and seeing her upset about it is the exact moment everything changes. That's when it hits him. Being the non-violent, reasonable man in the room never earned him anything but more disrespect. So the old Hutch starts waking up piece by piece, and he sets out to get his daughter's keychain and his watch back. He tracks the burglars down by a tattoo on their arm and makes sure they get what's coming to them. On his way home, he ends up taking apart a drunk group of troublemakers on a city bus in what can only be described as an artistic beatdown, and from there he finds himself pulled straight into a war with the Russian mob. Home invasions, car chases, a body count that gets more absurd by the minute. If you've seen one retired hitman movie before, you already know exactly where this is headed, and that's actually the most interesting thing about it. Nobody never pretends to be unpredictable. It simply bets that you'll enjoy the ride anyway. There used to be a very specific shape to the American action hero, Schwarzenegger's arms, Stallone's jaws, bodies built so that violence looked like a natural extension of who these men already were. That version of masculinity went out of style a while ago. What replaced it is quieter and honestly more unsettling. The danger now lives inside the most unremarkable guy in the neighborhood. The one who drags his trash cans to the curb, takes the bus to work, treats everyone at the office with quiet respect, and cooks his own dinner at home. None of this works without the casting, and this is exactly where the film quietly outplays most of its genre. Liam Neeson throwing a punch is believable because Neeson has spent 20 years being an action star. His body sells the violence before the script even has to. Odenkirk is the opposite kind of actor entirely. He doesn't look like a hitman. He looks like your accountant. For years, years, he carried Saul Goodman's very specific brand of tragicomic desperation, and this film takes that exact energy and points it somewhere new. The audience doesn't believe Hutch can fight because Odenkirk looks dangerous. Like, they want to believe it because Odenkirk looks like them, or like the version of themselves that gets quietly humiliated in meetings and swallows it with a polite smile. Every punch he throws in that bus scene isn't really about Hutch settling a score with a few drunk troublemakers. It plays more like revenge for every insult the audience has ever had to swallow. There's a part of this movie that should feel like a flaw and somehow doesn't. And there's no real tension in Nobody. Hutch is going to win. The bad guys are going to get what's coming to them. The house will end up being a home again, not a battlefield. Normally that kind of certainty kills tension completely. Here, it turns into something closer to comfort, the same kind of pleasure a kid gets from hearing the same bedtime story over and over again. In the real world, violence has weight. You throw one punch and you get a broken hand, a lawsuit, fines, a ruined week. In Hutch's world, violence is catharsis with no bill the next morning, no consequences at all. The film never makes you feel guilty for enjoying that fantasy, and that lack of guilt is, in its own strange way, the most honest thing about it. None of this would work without real craft behind the camera, and director Ilya Naishuller clearly knows exactly what he's doing with physical action. Odenkirk reportedly went through serious physical training for this role, and it shows in the choreography. There's a deliberately rough, amateur but dangerous quality to how he moves that sets Nobody apart from the wave of slick John Wick imitators that came after it. Every time Hutch snaps into action, the film slows down, classical music creeps in, and the fight scenes are practically designed to be sipped slowly like wine. The movie is also smart enough not to take itself too seriously. The moment Christopher Lloyd shows up with a shotgun plays almost like the film's own mission statement. A wink that says we know exactly how ridiculous this is and we're having a great time anyway. A film that refuses to take itself too seriously gives itself a built-in defense against criticism. This isn't a movie pretending to be art, and it doesn't need to be one to be worth your 90 minutes. It's a well-built, self-aware piece of genre cinema that knows exactly what itch it's scratching and scratches it efficiently. The blood on screen is a cheap coat of paint over the gray of an ordinary, over-managed life. And once that paint dries, the same gray wall is still sitting right there underneath it. So, should you watch it? If you want 90 minutes of well-choreographed, self-aware catharsis with no homework required, absolutely. And if you want more breakdowns like this one, where we look at not just whether a movie works, but why, subscribing is the easiest way to make sure the next one finds you.